My next guest takes on Saad Awad at Bellator 201 on June 29th. It is Ryan Couture joining me here on the program. Ryan, how are you?
Doing great, thanks. How about you?
I'm doing very well. Now, where am I getting you today? Did you just finish practice? You going to practice? Where am I getting you right now?
Just working the front desk at the gym and snuck off into the office here to chat for a few, and then I got practice coming up in about an hour and a half.
I'm not going to get you in trouble, am I?
No, never.
Okay, good. That's perfect. I was going to say your last name's on the door, so I'd imagine you kind of get away with doing a little interview here and there. It's not too bad. But I think the big question, Ryan, everyone's wanting to know for this fight is the layoff for you. You haven't fought since Bellator NYC. What has been the reason for the time off?
I had a meniscus tear I had to get fixed up back in September, which was right around the time we were starting to talk about getting the next fight lined up, and then I think that just bumped me to the back of the line, so it's taken a while for them to find a spot for me, but I'm excited to finally be getting back to it.
And your fight for Bellator NYC was in June, so you mentioned you wanted to fight in September. That's even a little bit of time off in between there. What was the reason for just wanting to take some time off in between there?
I feel like it always takes a little bit to kind of come back around to my turn in the way Bellator's running right now. They're signing a lot of fighters and doing a lot of shows, but sometimes the turnaround's not as quick as maybe I'd like.
Fair enough. I know exactly what you mean by that. Let's talk about Bellator NYC. You got the decision win. I know it wasn't a finish, but you must have been pretty happy with your performance in that fight.
Yeah. I think I stuck to the plan and did what we went in there intended to do. It was up a weight class, and I knew his grappling pedigree was pretty strong, so I was maybe a little more cautious than I needed to be. I think in hindsight, maybe I could have taken a few more risks and potentially gotten the finish, but I'm happy with the win, and getting a good 15 minutes of cage time is never a bad thing. So, all in all, came out unscathed, and am happy with the way the fight went.
And you've obviously, fought in the UFC, fought in Strikeforce, and you fought in Bellator as well, obviously, for a good chunk of your career. What was it like getting to experience Bellator NYC? That was one of their bigger cards. How did that have like a different feel as far as, competing there, especially at the Garden?
It was incredible. It was my first time in New York City. It's somewhere I had always wanted to visit, so to get to do it, and then on top of that, to get to compete and get a win in such a historic venue was just an incredible experience and a career highlight for me, for sure.
You got a tough fight here in Saad Awad, obviously very formidable opponent, 22-9 record. Now, the one thing I looked at in this fight is it was a 160-pound catch weight. What's sort of the reason for that?
I know he's fought at both 155 and 170. I am just coming off a fight at 170 and then a long layoff, so I was carrying a little extra weight around as well. And then with California really cracking down on the weight cutting and kind of tweaking some of their rules,
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, that's a good point.
We just didn't want to risk it. Wanted to take some of that stress out of it, and he was happy to meet us at 160 and sort of alleviate that headache that always comes during fight week and focus on the task at hand, and that's putting on a good show.
And the plan, though, is to be at 155, right? That's sort of where you want to be. I guess just with the layoff and everything, you just wanted to make, everything better safe than sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. Hadn't had to make 155 in, it's been about 18 months now.
I was going to say, yeah, it's been a while, yeah.
Yeah, so just better safe than sorry for sure. 155 is still home, although I'm not completely opposed to potentially taking more fights at 170 as well if it's the right opportunity and the right matchup.
And the nice thing about Bellator, it seems like a lot of guys are in that boat, that they'll take fights at 170, they'll take fights at 155. So, I mean, you'll never be sort of having a shortage of opponents. And like your opponent here, Saad Awad, he's fought at both. Like I said, he's a very formidable opponent. How do you feel like you match up against him in this fight?
I think it's a real fun matchup. I think obviously he's very heavy-handed, and he's also a good grappler. He's dangerous wherever the fight takes place. So it's a big challenge and a big opportunity for me to get back in the mix at lightweight. Even though we're fighting at a catch weight, it'll still, I think, affect the lightweight rankings, and that's why I'm so excited about it. It's an opportunity to reestablish myself in my home weight class and start working back into that title conversation. So. As far as how the matchup plays out, obviously he's not someone you want to stand straight in front of and trade blows with, but I think if I can force it into a grind and make him grapple with me, that's going to still be a crowd-pleasing fight because he's very aggressive on the ground as well, and it's going to be my best bet for pulling off the win.
Do you feel like if this does turn into a grappling or a wrestling match, so you'll have the edge there?
Yeah, I think my clinch work and my positioning on the ground is going to be enough to shut him down and frustrate him and hopefully get the finish even.
Now, if people aren't, well, I mean, everyone's obviously seeing the video here. You're a smart man because you're, obviously plugging the gym here with the Extreme Couture shirt and the Extreme Couture hat. You train at a great camp. One of the great things about training at Extreme is you get a lot of fighters coming down that want to use the PI, and they'll sometimes drop in and do some cross training. Do you find that you get a lot of different looks sometimes just with fighters, maybe coming in and wanting to try out the PI?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Whenever there's guys in town using the PI, they'll almost always pop over at least on Tuesdays and Thursdays because this is where I think the majority of the high-level sparring partners are in town. So we get a ton of different looks on the mats week in and week out, and that's a huge plus to being here.
Who are some of your main training partners just outside of that, as far as guys that you train with, maybe a little bit more than others?
We get a ton of tough guys in the 155, 170-pound range. I'm trying to think who have been putting a lot of work in with Ryan Walker, who just signed with Bellator. He's got a fight coming up in July, so we've been able to get some good work in this camp. Clint Treadway, one of my amateurs here, who also works at the gym, has been a big help and a good body for me. Miles Hunzinger's given me a lot of good rounds. Gil Guardado is always a great training partner. Dave Mazzani is gearing up to fight for the EFC Worldwide title again. I'm sure I'm leaving out several. Justin James has a fight coming up. He and I always beat the hell out of each other when we're in camp. So it's been a lot of good push, a lot of good rounds. I'm feeling ready. It's been starting to wear on me a little as training camp always does. So I'm excited that there's just a couple more hard weeks left, and then I get to go have some fun.
And how is the cut going, getting down to 160?
I'm right on track. I don't think it's going to be tough at all. I was nervous based on where I started, but been probably more disciplined than I have in the past with the diet, and everything's fallen in line at the right time.
What's one thing you miss during training camp that you can't eat that's on the cheat meal list as soon as you're done the fight?
Oh, I could eat a cheeseburger every single day, so going this long without one's starting to stress me out, but we'll take care of that on the 30th.
Now, are you picky about cheeseburgers? Like, I know some people, can be very particular, whether it's In-N-Out or Five Guys. Do you have like a go-to cheeseburger, or it doesn't matter?
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's a good one. I love In-N-Out. I love Five Guys. I love Smash Burger. More like restaurant style burgers I'm good with too. Something a little heftier. I'm not too picky.
Who's going to be in your corner for this fight?
Gonna have my dad as always, and Eric Nixick has been
oh, great. Okay, good.
Really stepping up and helping out running camp. Obviously, Dad travels a lot, so it's great to have Eric. He and I are he's probably my best friend anyway, so we communicate real well and work real well together, and it's great having him right here in the building, keeping me on track every day.
And how do you see this fight ending on June 29th? What's your prediction?
I think it's going to be a grind. It's going to go into the second or third round, but I'm gonna find a position and either pound him out or choke him out.
And if all goes well in this fight, let's say you get a finish or you come out unscathed, are you looking for sort of a quick turnaround just to make up for lost time, or you'll just kind of wait and see?
I always say I'm looking for a quick turnaround. It never seems to materialize.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'll take what I can get, but yeah, the more active I can be, it's been a problem for me over the last probably 3 or 4 years now. I haven't managed to get more than 2 fights in any given year, and I'd like to start to right the ship on that front and get some momentum rolling, get a win streak together. So, in perfect world, 3 months maybe turnaround would be ideal, but I'll take whatever I can get.
See, you should just say the opposite. You're like, I don't want to fight for 2 years, and then you'll get booked like next month or something, right? So,
yeah, then the phone line will start blowing up.
Yeah, maybe something will work out there. Are you watching any TV right now? Any Netflix? Anything getting you through training camp right now? Maybe some video games. I know you have a family, but sometimes you get some of that time in.
Yeah, I've been keeping up with the new season of Westworld. I've been enjoying that. It's kind of tough to keep up with this year. A lot of complicated timelines and stuff going on. That's the main one I'm working on right now. It's been sort of slow TV season for me.
And one of the things we saw this past weekend in the UFC was, Ronda Rousey getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. And, of course, she's in WWE now. Is pro wrestling something you pay attention to at all as a fighter, or is that not even on your radar?
Nah, once in a while, if it happens to be on, I get a kick out of it, but I don't follow it at all.
No interest in doing that after your career's over. I know you're a soft-spoken guy, but, it seems like we see a lot of fighters sort of making that transition, especially from Bellator.
Yeah, it'd be way outside my comfort zone. I don't think I could cut a good promo to save my life.
Okay, fair enough. At least you're honest about it. Is there anyone in the lightweight division that you're kind of eyeing? Maybe after this. I know you're not looking past Saad, but is there any like fight that's sort of out there that you're like, I got to get that fight before my career's done?
No, I really don't have time to think like that right now. I'm just so deep into fight camp and keeping up with work here at the gym and coaching and everything else that I have on my plate that I don't even have a free minute to consider it.
How much, like, as far as balancing the time between working at Extreme and then also training, is that pretty manageable for the most part? Again, I know your last name's on the door, but still, it's I'm sure it can kind of cut into both ends of the spectrum.
I feel like between training and work, I'm here almost every day of the week, and I like it that way. This is kind of my home away from home. We've got a lot of great people around here that help step up and pick up some of my slack when I'm preoccupied with training camp. So, I definitely never feel like I'm overworked or run into the ground, but it keeps me busy for sure.
What position, like what's your duties at the gym?
Just kind of obviously just man in the front desk and sort of customer service, but then I help with a lot of the management stuff. There's Eric and I kind of split up the duties on this side, and we've got the corporate crew that work kind of in the upstairs office that we coordinate with. So we all kind of chop up all the bookkeeping and everything else and make it happen between the four of us.
Have you ever had a situation where a customer's like, "I'd like to speak to the manager," and you're like, "You do realize what my last name is here? Come on." Like,
I don't approach it quite like that.
no, I know you're a pretty polite guy. I'm just saying it would have been kind of funny if that had happened and they didn't know who you were, something like that. I know Randy, obviously, your father, obviously is sort of more behind it, but I still think that would be a pretty funny scenario.
Yeah, I'd pull out my ID and flash it for him.
Yeah, you see this? Yeah, no, that's good. But in the meantime, man, we got to check out this fight. It's Bellator 201 coming up here June 29th, live on Paramount Network. Ryan, it was a great getting a chance to talk to you, man. Just remind people where they can find you on social media, and if you have any sponsors or shout-outs, the floor is yours, sir.
You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. My handle on all three is Ryan D. Couture. Just throw my middle initial in there, and you'll find me. I'll make sure all the sponsors get their due on there. I'm terrible at keeping them all straight, so just keep an eye on my social media pages for updates, and I'll make sure the sponsors see some love.